Welcome back. Saturday marks the 20th anniversary of one of the darkest days in our country's history, the terrorist attacks on September 11th. And this week, 2 more victims were identified, bringing the death toll to 1,647 people. And all new at 11, twin light beams are lighting up the sky over Palm Harbor tonight. The lights will be on for the next 2 nights from 8 to 10 p.m. at the Curlew Hills Memory Gardens. It's another way to remember all those who lost their lives on that tragic day. Earlier this evening at 6 o'clock, I-Team investigator Adam Walser outlined how terrorists moved to the Bay Area and lived amongst us in the months before the 9/11 attack. New tonight, he's digging deeper into why we're still waiting for answers about who may have helped them 2 decades later.
In the months that followed the 9/11 attacks, the federal government spent millions on investigations, interviewed thousands of people, and traveled the globe in search of evidence. Then Florida Senator Bob Graham, who led the Senate Intelligence Committee that investigated 9/11, said crucial information was never provided to Congress or the public. He fought for 15 years to get classified documents released.
Did these 19 people, most of whom did not speak English, most of whom had never been in the United States before, most of whom were not well educated, did they carry out this sophisticated task alone, or did they have some form of support while they were in the United States?
Graham believes that a family that lived in the upscale gated Prastancia neighborhood in Sarasota may have been involved. Abdulaziz Al-Hiji, a recent USF graduate, lived in this home with his wife Anud, where sources say they were visited by some of the hijackers before the 9/11 attack.
They had lived for about 5 or 6 years prior to this in this house that was owned by her father, a man by the name of Issam Ghazawi.
Journalist Dan Christensen, who was founder of the Florida Bulldog News website, broke the news of a potential Sarasota Saudi connection.
Ghazawi was a wealthy, politically connected individual.
Ghazawi, who married an American woman, was an advisor to Saudi Prince Fahad. We found these photos of Ghazawi in a lawsuit, posing with world leaders, including President George Bush, British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. When they purchased the home in Prastancia for their daughter and son-in-law, records show that the Ghazawis listed this 4,200 square foot waterfront home in Longboat Key as their residence. It was sold in 1998 for $1.75 million. Back in Prastancia, neighbors reported the Al-Hijis, who allegedly had contact with the hijackers, abandoned their home in late August 2001.
This family had moved out hastily from the home about 2 weeks before 9/11. So hastily, in fact, they left behind their cars, clothes, jewelry.
An investigation began days after the September 11th attack.
I understand that FDLE was involved at some point, some of the local police. It was more than just the FBI, correct?
Oh, yes. There was a joint terrorism task force that included the county sheriff, Sarasota PD. FDLE, of course, was involved in all this. And that's where we managed to get a lot of the information early on here.
An FDLE report indicated the Al-Hijis and Ghazawis were both on the FBI watch list. And Christensen later uncovered from multiple sources that 9/11 hijackers visited the home.
Their license tags were photographed, and they had to fill out forms to be admitted to get in the first place.
When that story was surfaced, the FBI's response was, in a public statement, that it had done a complete investigation of the situation in Sarasota, that it had found no connections between the hijackers and the prominent Saudi family.
When Christensen sought records through the Freedom of Information Act, he was told they didn't exist, leading him to sue the FBI for the records. The FBI eventually sent Christensen this report in which an agent said there were many connections between the family and the 9/11 hijackers. A federal judge ultimately ordered the FBI to produce the requested documents.
They told the judge in the case that the Tampa field office had 80,000 pages related to 9/11 that were generated by their office, and that they were all classified every page.
Sarasota private investigator Bill Warner simultaneously started his own investigation.
And they were here, like in my neighborhood. So I had to look at it, I kept looking at it.
Warner partnered with police, sheriff's deputies, and was eventually paid by ICE for providing surveillance photos and phone bills he collected from the garbage cans of people of interest.
Where were they calling?
All over the world. I mean, anywhere and everywhere. Lots in the Middle East. Their bills, you can see they're $1,200, $1,500, $2,000, sometimes $4,000 a month.
And these are people living in a dumpy
These are guys that are living in duplexes, driving old cars, who don't have a job.
Warner learned some of the people he surveilled had ties to terrorism.
I was upset by 9/11, everybody was. So I was gonna do whatever I could do to find out if there was really a support network here.
In Tampa Bay, there are still plenty of questions awaiting answers.
We are entitled to know what happened, what changed the skyline of the biggest city in the country and killed 3,000 people.
I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser taking action for you.